Welcome to Fantasy Football Aces. It's your boy William Wolf. And we're ready for week 4. Let's go. I got a big fantasy football matchup this week. Another fellow playoff team, in my opinion. He's got the Drip King, the Physics Dream Team, the Government Kyle T, a man who's been in this league since the very beginning, an OG, and still hasn't won a championship. Kyle Thompson, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for having me, William Wolf. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I love
First
this
of
shit.
all, you know what's great about this, man, is that, we have been doing this thing for about 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And you are full of shit. I have won a championship. It may have
Did
been
you?
with Brett Favre and Willie Parker, man. I know that those are
Holy
names.
shit.
I know, right? Those are names. Willie Parker.
Were we in high school still?
God, Donald Driver. That's all you need to know, man.
No, I'm asking, like, genuinely.
Absolutely. I think I won like maybe $10.
Is this really true? Like,
I swear, I have a championship, and you guys give me shit about it forever. But
does the Yahoo record show it though?
I don't know. I've never gone back and
I don't
confirmed.
know, man.
But I can assure you that I had a championship with Willie Parker, Donald Driver. I may have even had Edgar and James on that team. Brett Favre. I mean, we were stacked.
Silly Willie.
Silly Willie, baby. What happened was, who was the guy? I can't even remember. I picked up Willie Parker off free agency. Someone got hurt, and Willie Parker was like a rookie that year. You're gonna have to check this out, man. I promise you, this is valid.
I'll check it after the pod and then we'll confirm. But go to get your phone out and then so you can look at teams and stuff when we get into those kind of conversations. Before we get into it though, man, what do you think about all the toxicity in the diamond, man? Is it just like any other league, or what is your opinion on that, man? It gets pretty fucking toxic in the diamond. This week there's a lot of Royal Rumbles about to start.
You know what's funny about that, man, is I was gonna ask you the same question, but not a way different answer or way different way. Is what makes our league so great? And that was the answer to the answer.
Bring this mic up here.
Okay. I was gonna ask, man. I was gonna say, what makes this league so great? And honestly, I think that what it is that everyone has so much damn passion for this, man, and cares. And I'll give you a great story, man. At first, when we, like I said, this league's been going on for 20 years. We've been what do we have? 7 guys that are pretty much core members. Couple guys through attrition we've lost, come and go. Yeah. But there's about 7 or 8 of us that are core members, and then friends throughout. But
for 20 plus years.
20 plus years, man. I mean, it's insane.
We've been going on since Steven Jackson and LaDainian Tomlinson were dominating. Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were slinging with the Colts and the Patriots back then with Randy Moss. And just through all those years, you just seen so many names come through. And to me, like players like now, they remind me of players then. It's like Ramondre Stevenson, for example, he reminds me of Steven Jackson back in the day.
That's what I was going to say, man. That's another one. Steven Jackson, Sean Alexander. Mm-hmm. I mean, God, we've been...
Sean Alexander was a huge fantasy football player.
Man. But, I think first things first, right? The toxicity, like to address your answer, I think that what it comes down to is that we all care, man. We all care about this league. And that's what makes it great, right? Like, I only play in one league. I'm a dad, you know what I mean? I don't have a whole lot of time to invest in multiple leagues and daily DraftKings lineups and shit. Like, I don't have that time, you know what I mean? So, like, this is what my baby is. This is my project. I focus on it. And truthfully, man, just truthfully speaking, I've said this over and over again. I think you guys feel like it's cap. But, for the first 5-6 years, it was fun. We were all together. Then, you go to college, and then you get life. I was married, getting a house, all that bullshit. And I kind of, I was in it, but it was more like I wasn't as vested in it. And then all of a sudden we kept raising the buy-in. I was like, fuck, I'm losing money. My wife's giving me shit at home. You know what I mean? She's like, you suck. You always lose. I'm like, man, I don't need this shit from you either. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting it from them in the chat. Now you're giving it to me. But I realized one night, I swear this is a true story. I look up and I'm looking on the waivers. And I'm like, man, where is everyone going? This is bullshit. Does everyone put a bid in? I realized that a
No
couple of our
bids back
guys
then, but yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Not a bid, but people are going in
Yeah.
and just picking them up off the waiver wire.
I did the same thing, but I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I look and I see this guy, man, Korea, James O, and this guy's up at 3:59 every morning, and he's picking up stuff, and I was like, this is way more serious than I thought it was. You know what I mean?
So for me, just to interject, is like for me in that, I would only do it if I felt like it was there. I did it all the time, but it was like there was weeks that like it wasn't necessary, and I was like, I'm not getting up this 4 a.m. But all the time when it was necessary, like when you knew back then, because the stupid priority fucking waivers,
Yeah,
you had to strategically not pick people up so you can try to creep your way down the list. So in those situations, like if you needed somebody to help you that week through buys or whatever, you had to get up at 4 a.m. and shop, because if not, you probably weren't going to get the guy you wanted. And now you completely eliminate that with Fab, because you can bid $0 on people and you don't need to wake up and whatnot. So it's completely pointless. But that was something that all you guys out there, if you are in any fantasy football leagues, number one, you need to graduate on to Fab. Like, there's no reason to be doing priority waivers. They're just absolutely garbage, and it's just a thing of the past, and it's not. There's no skill involved in it. It's just terrible. As a matter of fact, I can go into a whole rant about how bad waiver priorities are, especially for bad teams. If you're stuck in the back of the waivers and you can't even fix your situation because people, anytime the running back pops up, like I said, I'm not going to rant about this, but we got the game on, guys, by the way, on the corner here, and we got Physics Dream Team. But let's talk about Physics Dream Team, the name. We dove in a little bit about the story, but let's give a little history about Physics Dream Team. By the way, he's got Evan Ingram playing right now.
Yeah, I got Evan Ingram.
We're competing for viewers against the NFL game.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get about 40, 50 right now.
Yeah, right.
But no, here's the deal, man. To be honest with you, where the Physics Dream Team derived from is that, our junior year in high school, I think, is when we kind of started this thing off. And there were 2 physics classes, right? There was like we were all kind of, we're smart guys, we're smart kids. We've done pretty well with ourselves, each and individually, but we were in 2 different physics honors classes, right? And we had this new teacher. I don't know if I should name him on the air or not, but
you could say John C.
John C, baby. John C, we'll call him right now. And
no full governments here, man, except myself.
Yeah, man. So long story short, man, this guy, he was a sweet, kind man, but he was a little bit of a goofball, I'll just say, man. He kind of like, his priorities were a little twisted. He really meant well. He wanted to teach us, but he was young and he didn't know how to teach us. So, and we were kind of jerks, right? I think we could all agree we were jerks. And, we would kind of like get together at lunch or periods after, and we'd talk about, well, in this class, we do this. In this class, we do this. And long story short, our senior year, we merged into the AP Physics class, the two worst classes. We ended up merging, and that's where we came up with the name, the Physics Dream Team, because it was all the quote unquote bad kids in one class, man. Yeah. So
bad kids in AP classes. Whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the real bad kids out there like laughing, like these fucking
these nerds and fucking dorks.
But no, I was a really bad kid. I feel bad about the things that I did to John C. And looking at it from a grown man's perspective, because to be honest with you, we're probably older now than he was then teaching that class.
Yeah, I would agree.
So looking at it from even an older perspective than he was, he was just a guy who probably was never cool or never caught a break his whole life, and then he goes and gets a nice degree and he's a smart man, and he comes and he just gets shitted on even more, and from high school kids that probably already made fun of him when he was in high school. And it's really sad, to be honest with you, but like when you're young, you don't really understand those kind of things, and you just
100%.
You don't have empathy. You're more of a narcissist. You have that kind of behavior. But no, I really feel bad about that, and I wish I could speak to him, but I haven't really went out of my way to like make that happen. But yeah, John C, he was a pushover. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. let's get right into the Diamond League here and go through our matchup specifically, and then we'll talk a little bit about the other matchups. I'm gonna first get into your team here. Let me grab my mouse. We're gonna go into your team and let's talk about specifically. You said you might want to. You probably memorize your team, so you don't need to think about it. But you said, hey, a few years ago, maybe let's call it 5 or 6 years ago, you said, fuck it, man, I got to take this a little bit more serious. Now, my pushback on that is coming from a guy who, I agree with everything you said about the passion in the league, and the reason why it forms toxicity is because we care that much, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me individually, like, I don't know if you'll meet a more competitive person in your life. And I know some people say that, but like I've just been like that, like through everything, Madden, everything you can think of, like even when I was young. And I want to win regardless. I don't care if it's $1 for $1. Like I just want to win, right? So what made you? Why were you not caring? And then you said a little bit more. It was more about your family and your life and all the other things you had going on. But it clicked, and we still haven't won a championship since then. No. I'm not trying to make. I'm not trying to make a joke. I'm just saying, like, let's take me through the last few years. Your drafting, how we switched to salary cap, which has made an impact. I know you do a lot of data analytics when it comes to this kind of thing. And then, finally get into this year's draft and your strategy and the way you went after players, et cetera.
No, absolutely. So, kind of, again, going back to kind of that 5-year point. So we are in our third year, right? 4th year. This is the 4th year.
I won the first with Pat Mahomes,
okay,
who we'll get into later because you got the drip.
Yeah. So this is the fourth year that we've been at this. And truthfully, it's changed the strategy behind everything, right? Before we were doing snake, and you had no control over what happens. And what would kind of piss me off is our league is very running back heavy. It's always been that way. We've migrated to PPR.
We used to be standard, right?
Yeah, we've migrated to PPR, half point. But it didn't matter. Our guys were like stubborn. You go to look on week 6 or 7 and look for a third string running back, and you couldn't find one. There was like literally no one there. People would hoard running backs. So that is my mentality that I've had this year, because I kind of got shot last year on it, and I'll explain that in a minute. But back to the 5 years, I just started doing a little more research, started paying more attention, and truthfully, I know that Bill has been one of the top, I would say, competitors in this league year in and year out. He's had some really trashy years in the past. Maybe he won one, and then he had a couple bad ones.
I've only had one bad one with our salary. And I learned a valuable lesson that year, and it's the lesson that highs mids is going through this year. Is I don't want to give out strategy, but
you're gonna have to, man.
When
you might as well.
when you're in salary cap and you try to go for the approach of saving money and then grabbing people later because you have all the money, you end up just having a bunch of guys that don't have high ceilings. They're just you
know what you're gonna get week in and week out. You're gonna get 7 to
that's the problem
9 points.
Is
maybe.
you need that. So when you have a bunch of players like that, in theory, you can still have the best team if they all hit their average every time. But the problem is everybody has dud weeks. Whether you're a good player, a middle player, road player, or a bad player, you have dud
Derrick
weeks.
Henry had 2 points last
exactly.
week.
So when you have a bunch of mids and then they are going below their average, then you end up not being able to score over 110.
110.
But
that's the number, baby. That's the magic
my point
number.
My point is that year I did that approach. I had Russell Wilson. I paired him up with Lockett. I had a really good team on paper. I remember I that year Clyde Edwards-Helaire came off a big year, and I went for him in the middle of the road for around $30. I got I got another running back that was pretty good around $30, and I had a really mid team. Like it was a bunch of mids, and I remember first week my team exploded, and then after that, it went downhill. Russell Wilson got hurt, and once that kind of injury happens, you're you're really dead, regardless of your team, which brings you to your last year's team with Breece Hall, who really put an end to your
Rashad
season.
Penny and Breece Hall, man, getting both of them hurt. And I only had 4 at the time. I had 4 running backs, right? I think
To be
it was
completely frank, Rashad Penny was nothing. I mean, you can see what's going on with Philadelphia right now. He's not that talented of a running back, and Kenneth Walker was going to take over regardless.
Yeah, but still, it would have gotten me
it.
through. And that's the thing. The thought that I had is because and going back, right? So I'll recircle back to that. Going back to how did I pivot with my strategy? I started looking at what the winning teams were doing, right? And I was like, hey, well,
That's
the hell?
what you should be doing.
Yeah, what's getting them through it, right? And it's like, how are they adjusting? How are they pivoting? And that goes back to data analytics.
I saw you looking at Alex G's teams the last couple of years.
Man. I mean,
rest in peace.
Hey, man.
Alex G.
That guy, he's got our belt, but we thrive and live, man.
Yeah.
According to the story, I heard that we got the best of them. So
I do the same thing, by the way. I'm humble and smart at the same time. So I'll look to see, like, I know my teams have been successful, and I look at my championship team with Pat Mahomes, and then I look at last year's team, which I had the best team last year down the road. And you do exactly what you're saying. You're seeing how that money is allocated and figuring out a way that you can probably duplicate that. But at the end of the day, we know this, and you and John are really adamant about this. I mean, there's only so much you can do. Football, we're not playing the game, bro. Hiley has the most heart in our whole league, but he's not out there. He can't go play for his mids. So I mean, it is what it is. They're gonna perform the way they're gonna perform. Injuries are gonna happen, etc. So keep going though with your thought process.
yeah, well, hold on. I think my man just he had 2 points total possibly with that catch, and I think did he get it back? Good, he got it back. Yeah, no. So you just kind of pivot. You look and see what other people are doing, and that kind of goes back to the data analytics. I'm an IT guy, so I believe in data. I coach high school football. I believe in data. It's not always accurate 100%, but tendencies prove, right? So with my draft strategy for the last 3 years, I've captured everyone's bids, right? And I kind of know who's going to bid what on where, right? And I use that data to my advantage. You use your draft sheets and everything, but I can kind of get an idea as to, like, all right, where the top tier running backs are going to go. There's always some surprises, right? Like, I got Miles Sanders. I was able to scoop Miles Sanders for like $3 this year, which is really, really low. But, and some guys go higher, some guys go lower, but it kind of gives you an idea as to who to target and who to strategy, or, who to, go after when you're in the draft. And that's helped me in the last couple of years. Just knowing who picks, who likes to bid high on running backs, who likes receivers, stuff like that.
People have pivoted though and changed their strategy year to year. So, for example, I mean, he went completely left field this year. I mean, I know he's saying now and regret that he actually wanted Tyreek Hill, but and then Matos completely pivoted away from his strategy.
He was two running backs.
The whole thing for a loop. Korea, he's done different things every year.
I think that guy comes drunk to the draft sometimes.
Korea definitely was looking at FFA this year because he went after Chubb. Like he was in with FFA this year. So then talk about this year's draft and your guys. Specifically, I'm over here very nervous about the drip, and I really wish I had him right now. I spent $34 on Fields. You spent the same amount on Mahomes. If I had Mahomes right now, my team would be an absolute clear favorite to win the championship this year.
Oh man, that's a biased opinion, but
really,
I think your team's good.
If I had Pat Mahomes on my team right now,
yeah, man,
we spent the same amount on that. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, no, but that's the thing, right? And it's going back to draft strategy, right? And I think that this is what your listeners need to really understand is that there's many ways to manipulate drafts, right? And that's the beauty behind auctions. When especially with Fab and stuff, I highly encourage everyone to pivot to this because, like you said, the waiver wire is BS luck. If someone gets hurt that week and you happen to have the number one waiver, then you're the one. It doesn't matter if you're the worst team or the best team. At least with Fab, it gives you control.
Well, Fab's a no-brainer. Talking to people into the salary cap's a little bit more difficult, which is I think is what you really mean.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
Fab's a no-brainer. If you're doing waiver priority, you got to change that ASAP.
But wouldn't you say that most people, since it's the default setting, most people play on that.
I think from what I've seen from the fantasy community, as I've learned the last couple of months being more in tune with the community, is most people have switched to Fab.
Oh, that's actually enlightening. I didn't know that.
For waivers. But we're a very small minority for salary cap. And salary cap is the move. Once you do it, you never want to do snake again.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, and that's going back to draft strategy, right? like I knew the approach that I wanted to have. I wanted to have an elite quarterback, an elite receiver, or I wouldn't say elite. I would say an elite quarterback, elite running back, and about a tier 2 receiver, right? That was kind of my goal. And I think I hit on all of them, right? I got Pat Mahomes, and I got him for pretty cheap. I've got Derrick Henry, and I overpaid for him, I think.
You didn't except in hindsight, maybe. But in
hindsight.
Initially, no. You can never look at hindsight because it is what it is. But you got a tier 1 receiver, I would say, with AJ Brown.
It depends. It depends. I mean,
he's
I
definitely tier 1.
You would say tier 1.
100%.
How many receivers are in tier 1? Would you say
12?
Okay. See, I'm thinking like 6.
If you want to go by that tier, then those kind of tiers, then there's probably only 3 or 4 guys. I would say the ones
Jefferson.
that their quarterbacks actually really 1,000% focus on them, which is Cooper Kupp when healthy, Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
And
there's probably 4 in there. I'm trying to think of the 4th one.
There's one more that the quarterback absolutely fixates
Jamar
on
Chase.
Them. No, he's not in that category.
Not this year though.
Never. I would say like
Really?
It's not that fixation. Like Josh Allen literally stares down Stephon Diggs. Stafford literally stares down Cooper Kupp and Puka right now. And then you have the Justin Jefferson. I wouldn't say Cousins stares him down, but I just think
he trusts him.
They know how to scheme that bitch open. They just are the best. Minnesota is probably the best I've ever seen at scheming a player open like that. There's one other one, but AJ Brown he's definitely a wide receiver 1. And that would the way I would view it. I wouldn't break it down to tiers. I think you break it down to tiers when you draft, because in Snake it's important because they're first round picks essentially.
Yeah.
But I would break it down into wide receiver 1s, wide receiver 2s, and AJ Brown is a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I subscribe to that.
Yeah.
But either way, so that was kind of my strategy. And then, again, pivoting back, right? Like I feel like 2 things that I think that always happen in fantasy, right? Like between weeks 1 and 4, there's always going to be a major running back that goes down. Always, right? And then I think receivers emerge late. You can find a good receiver in week 6. Like I got Christian Watson last year, maybe week 6, week 7, and he was huge for me down the stretch. Granted, I didn't make the playoffs last year, but
there's a common denominator in that. It's you're not going to find some receiver in the middle of the year like that unless they're a rookie. The key word is rookie.
Yeah.
Rookies always emerge later on. Which brings us to your big fab pickup this week, Joshua Palmer. I have Quentin Johnston, who I'm extremely optimistic about. I know he's the more talented guy between the two, but Josh is definitely the wide receiver 2 going into this week. There's not a doubt about that. His numbers have been off the charts with Mike Williams when he's out as filling in that role, essentially. You spent a decent amount of fab on him. I believe you made a mistake with your fab early this year. I would have went after Ford. I know you don't believe that you can trade and whatnot, but talk about your draft still more and like the rest of your team, how you feel about your chances going forward, and your pickup with Palmer this week, your first significant pickup this year.
Yeah, so going back to the draft, so I kind of tried to load up on running back 1s that would be, they demand between 12 to maybe 16 carries a game. That was kind of my goal. It didn't matter what offense they were, that they got touches. And I think that's important, right? Touches, and they could catch the ball out of the backfield. So I ended up getting, like I said, Miles Sanders for cheap. I ended up getting Miles Sanders. I got Alvin Kamara. I think I paid for him, like 20 some odd dollars, but I was willing to sit on him for a little while because I also got.
I think he was a little cheaper than that, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe. And then I got Javonte Williams at Denver, which truthfully he came up. And again, back to draft strategy.
You literally bid on. You nominated him first.
I didn't nominate him. Someone did, and that was the thing.
Oh, okay.
So again, I'm probably giving too much information out, but historically, right? Like the first 5 bids, people are hesitant because they don't want to spend their money. So you're going to get players for value, right?
I think that's false just because typically maybe, but this year automatic pickings, literally the computer bid on, he got 3 of his players out of the first 5, and it was because the computer just kept bidding on them. But who knows, if he didn't have that bullshit going on, what would have happened?
Well, exactly. And so that was kind of the point. So I really wasn't high on Javonte Williams. I don't like Denver. Typically, I think their offense is pud. I just don't like it. But he came up. He was a back that he's flashy. He can do good things when healthy. I know he's coming off of, what is it, MCL or ACL?
Everything.
Yeah, he had a bad knee. And typically, from what I've known, usually year 2 or the first year back, you're bad. The second year back, you're explosive. You got everything back, right? So he was kind of like a guy that I didn't really want to go after, but I was tapping a little bit and I got caught and I ended up getting him, but I didn't overpay. I don't think I got him at value, maybe $1 or 2 over. So, I had him.
You got him for value, but I would be honest about him right now is that I would have been at this point in time in the year, given the fact, because I didn't think that he was going to be getting this much run. I thought P. Ryan would be digging in a little bit more, but given the fact that he has gotten this kind of run, he's doing way worse than I thought he would. And once again, the Broncos are absolutely
They're abysmal,
disappointment compared to what you think. Sean Payton comes in, he's going to fix some things, and he's not able to. I mean, it's early still, but they're a disappointing offense. I think the main conclusion you can draw from it is that Russell Wilson is washed.
Well, God, man, how brilliant does Pete Carroll look? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I'm thinking Sean Payton. I'm like, oh, there's no doubt that this guy gets Russell Wilson back to his form.
Yeah.
And he still looks bad, man. He looks bad.
And I know Sutton and Judy and Javonte. I mean, they got pieces, so it's kind of. I feel like their offensive line's not bad. I don't really know. I don't understand it. They're 2 years in a row I don't understand it because I was high on Denver last year, but then this year I was like, no, I'm not falling for that trap ever. I'm not taking any of these fucks. But then I was like, there was the Sean Payton factor of it, and you're like, well, Sean Payton might fix this shit.
That's exactly what I thought especially with Russ Wilson. He was kind of like one of those guys that I was targeting as a backup quarterback. Right?
So specifically, let's talk about that. Is like you got a decision between Javonte, Miles, who I don't know what the reports are at the very moment. We'll check in on them as we talk here, and then you have Alvin Kamara coming off suspension. With Zach Moss, who was a pickup and obviously a monster pickup for you right now.
Pick 6.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I think that
Did was it a pick?
Yeah, it was a pick 6.
That's bad for Ingram. It's going to be a run fest second half.
Hopefully Atlanta can get back in it. But no, I have a couple guys on the bench, man. I have
why starting? Why are you going with the starts that you're going with?
Matchups. Truthfully, carries and matchups, right? I mean, God, if you watch Chicago, and I know you're a Bears fan, I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
They're just bad, man. They're a bad ball club right now. And, I can tell you firsthand, like I said, I coach high school football, right? So when you have players and teammates that doubt or have low confidence in the scheme or the coaching or each other, things can erupt real quick, man. So that's kind of where I went with the Denver. Someone's going to have to come ahead out there, right? Like the matchup. Denver and Chicago are both bad ball clubs. You're going to run the ball. Hopefully Denver finds a spark because they got absolutely embarrassed last week, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they get that fires them up. I mean, it's just kind of a thought. The guy that I'm actually considering, and it's kind of crazy because I spent $60 on him and he's a monster. I'm really in between benching Derrick Henry.
Sure.
And it sounds, you're like,
For
Derrick Henry. Man, Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
Kamara's fresh legs.
Your new toy.
Week 4. Yeah, I mean.
That's how I feel about Quentin Johnson this week is that, like, I know that he's going to be 60% snap share this week. They've already come out with reports and essentially said that Palmer's going to remain in his role and Johnston's going to try to be the downfield threat, the 50-50 ball guy.
Yeah.
He's my new toy, right? But I'll talk more about my team in a second when I get into my matchups. But are you pretty locked in here?
Yeah, I'd say I'm locked in here. To be honest with you, I've thought over it. I've looked at reports. I've tried to look at like Derrick Henry, like, things that factor into my decisions usually are like rain games. Like last week, you had a rain game, right, with Zach Moss, and you're like, okay, well, they're going to run the ball a lot more. I mean, the kid had what, 30 touches, something like that, something crazy. But again, circling back to Josh Palmer, to me, what it goes back to is trust right now, early, right? He's going to be a stopgap for me. I'm hoping that he can remain in the role that Mike, just take over the Mike Williams. But there is that kind of that you got the flash, the big, tall, flashy receiver, the rookie guy that's going to come in week 6.
Regardless, either way, they're one of the best offenses in the NFL. They're one of the best passing offenses in the NFL. Justin Herbert is healthy and he's slinging.
Yep.
He's a tall 6'5" quarterback. Those kind of quarterbacks, they see the field. Palmer's a locked in, loaded kind of guy now that Mike Williams is out. Quentin Johnson probably has the higher ceiling, and he has an opportunity to become a star maybe in this offense. But Palmer, he's gonna get his. I think there's room for all three of them and to eat essentially. So before I get into some of my thoughts on what I'm gonna do with my team, what do you think about the matchup this week against me? What do you think about my team in general? And what is your prediction?
Well, gosh, man, again, my lineup's pretty locked. I think one thing that really kills me, and again, I'll circle back to the Jerome Ford thing. Local Tampa kid, by the way, he played at Armwood High School, so
I didn't know that.
It's cool. Man, pretty cool. So it's always good seeing the Tampa guys kind of get their love. But bottom line is, I had to come to a decision. I had 4 running backs on my roster that I felt comfortable with. Kamara was, coming back week 4, and I thought they were all, solid options, right? I had an opportunity to pick up Zach Moss early, and I took a gamble. Unfortunately, at that time, I dropped Nico Collins, and I see him staring at me on your side, man. And one thing I believe in on receivers is volume, man. Targets. You got to get target share.
Yeah.
And all 3 of your guys, man, just looking at your lineup right now, you've got 3 guys that probably command between. Did he pick him again?
Jesus
Holy
Christ.
shit. Get Riddler out. Tackle him.
Oh my God. Fumble.
Yes. There we go. Red zone, baby. Ingram time.
Maybe.
But
you need it.
Yeah,
man. I need a little tutty. But no, so targets, man. And like I said, when you look at the 3 receivers that you have right now, they command between 10 to 12 targets. And in PPR, that's lethal. That equates
half
to
point,
6 points.
yeah.
But half point. That equates to 6 points if you get 5 to 6 points just on catches alone.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity. Pollard, I had an opportunity to train for him last year. He's explosive. He's the guy in Dallas. Dallas is a good football club. So he's explosive. He's a little scared of me. James Cook, I mean, he's an average running back. I think he's a touchdown dependent guy. I think they like to throw the ball a little bit better or more than anything. They have a tough matchup today.
Totally disagree with that take, but
hey, that's all right, man. That's
why
we're
we
here.
draft our own teams.
Yeah,
right?
that's why we're here. But overall, man, I think it's a very even matchup. You know what I mean? You got Mark Andrews, and that's dependent on how Baltimore does. He's obviously Lamar Jackson's favorite target, has been for a long time.
I don't think he is anymore.
Really? Who do you think?
Zay Flowers.
Yeah, Zay Flowers.
Yeah. He's become obsessed with that kid. They're like little butt buddies.
Yeah, man. Funny story about that. I mean, just, short story. I was talking to one of my guys that's playing at Bowling Green, and Zay Flowers has his little brother, I guess, is at Bowling Green right now. Is that in Miami, right? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So, he was just talking. He was saying some good things about his little brother and how talented he was. But literally on the way here, I was just talking to him. Bowling Green got a big win yesterday against Georgia Tech, so I had to shout that out.
All right. So, are you going to beat me?
Man, you know how I feel about this stuff. I think a lot of it's luck. But yeah, man, not only am I going to beat you,
Would you rather face DeAndre Swift, Cook, Pollard, or Raheem Mostert? Which guy would you rather not face?
You've got some running backs that are flashy, man. They're flashy, no doubt. I like
Mostert.
Decision. I like Mostert. I really do. That offense is they're clicking, man.
So am I making the wrong decision?
Yeah, I think so. I start Mostert, man. I really.
It sounds like to me you would start him over James Cook.
Yeah,
that's the guy you would start him over.
Yep.
You like Swift?
Yeah. I like Swift, but the thing is with the Philly backfield, man, you just never know what you're going to get.
I think that they've kind of. I think that I've seen enough.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, Swift's
the guy.
unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
He's
he's
a top
good,
5 talented running back in the NFL, in my opinion.
Gosh, you believe that, huh?
I watch him. He's unbelievable.
So let's talk about Gibbs then. So where does he fall? Because I know you're really, really high on Gibbs.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot to prove but he's got a lot of talent. So does Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, but talent doesn't mean shit. It's all these guys in the NFL are talented.
I don't really know what Detroit's doing out there. I don't know why they didn't play Swift. I don't know why they're not playing Gibbs.
Play action. Nope. Look right.
I'd think that fourth and one. Holy shit! I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I didn't think. I think that there's something going on with Dan Campbell's philosophy. I think that he likes to really bruise, and I think that that's just his philosophy. I think maybe possibly if they had a different coach, that Gibbs and Swift, for that matter, would have been more involved. Swift in particular, he's gotten a bad rap in his career so far for being injury prone. I hate when people say that because not about Swift specifically, about anybody. I don't believe people are injury prone. You could look at a guy like possibly Kadarius Toney, and you can call him injury prone because he just keeps having these little bullshit knack injuries, hamstring. He's just a fragile guy. He probably doesn't take care of his body. But Swift, on the other hand, or a guy like Saquon Barkley is another good example. They just had really bad luck. They're not injury prone. They just got hurt. DeAndre Swift's 23 years old. He's arguably, I would say, the best receiving back in the NFL. He can run routes better than anybody in the NFL from the running back position. Watching him play, he's just absolutely a different kind of athlete on the field compared to everybody else. When you see him get the ball compared to Kenneth Gainwell, it's like a night and day difference. Philadelphia sees it too. The yards per carry are dramatically different. Last week against Tampa, he was on pace to be about 70 to 30% snap share, but they got a little lead in the fourth quarter and they just let Gainwell finish the game out. So that's kind of what they did there. I'm to the point now where Pollard and Swift are almost. I can't take them out. I don't think I could take them out. They're matchup proof.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. But see, I dispute your claim about injury prone, man. I think that some guys just their bodies don't heal as good. And you got to think about this, right? If you have a lower body injury on your right side, right, you're going to overcompensate on your left. It's just how the body works, right? So sometimes I think that just some bodies can handle that better than others. And like you said, it may go into training or whatever, off-season training and how you take care of your bodies. But typically, from my experience, right, like if you have a right ankle injury, you overcompensate on the left. And I think down the road, it either makes it stronger or weaker. And I think that's where things happen, man. I just think it.
The point I'm making, though, is that DeAndre is looking great this year. He's healthy, and his past has nothing to do with his present. Like I believe that he's going to be just fine. And so, Saquon, for example, he was just fine last year as well.
Yeah, but that guy's got a string of God, man.
Yeah.
In your
Beneker's had bad luck.
John is, but you know what? Stop bidding on New York guys, man.
Yeah, I mean,
he's got a love for New York, and he can't let it go.
So for me personally, man, it's coming for this matchup in particular. I'm not taking James Cook out. I think that James Cook is a star. I totally disagree with your take. He's a RB1 right now without even scoring a touchdown, and that directly pushes back on what you said, because I don't expect James Cook to score. He's definitely not the goal line carrier. I mean, I'm not gonna say he's not the goal line carrier. They're gonna put in Latavius Murray, and they're gonna put in Damian Harris on the goal line, and James Cook, I'm gonna rely on him catching the ball out of the backfield, which he does plenty. And I'm going to rely on him breaking a long run. He's averaging, over 5 yards a carry. He's absolutely explosive. I'm in between him and Raheem Mostert. It's tough to take 45 points out of my lineup, but Buffalo's been really good against the run this year. And I think that Tua is just going to be throwing the ball quite a bit in this matchup. I think that Devon Achane, he's going to be in the picture a little bit, which is fine. They have plenty of room for both of those guys. I'm not worried about that at all. My thing is that they're on the road against a really tough Buffalo run defense. I think Tua's going to be throwing the ball a lot more. I think that I'm looking for a pace of a game script that Raheem probably only gets 11 touches, maybe three balls. And I'm like, so at that point, I'm like, all right, Raheem's got to score a touchdown for me. I think that in this kind of situation, I can't really make the wrong decision. Of course, in hindsight, I can make the wrong decision.
Well, if I beat you by 2 and
right,
you know,
right, in hindsight, but you can't be results oriented. That's like one of my main philosophies with this show is that you want to put yourself in the best position to win. I believe for my money that DeAndre Swift, they're gonna absolutely lock the fucking Washington Commanders up. I think that's a huge factor in our matchup. Me having Philadelphia's defense, I think they're really going to dominate that game. Sam Howell has taken the most sacks in the NFL. Yeah. I think that is a perfect recipe for DeAndre getting a lot of run work, right? Because they're winning the games, they're in the goal line.
Another pick.
So I think DeAndre is a must start. So then it's just I'm not taking Pollard out of my lineup ever. He's the real 3-down horse dog on that offense, and I invested $60. It's Swift and Mostert, or I'm sorry, Cook and Mostert, and they're going head up. It's Dolphins versus Bills. I think Bills are a favorite. They're at home. Those all are things that I think are reasons why I'm gonna roll with James Cook. Now, all week I've flip-flopped on DeAndre Hopkins and Raheem Mostert, and I'm sorry, DeAndre Hopkins and Quentin Johnston. And it's essentially ceiling versus floor.
God, I hate Tennessee's offense.
That's what
and
it
I
is.
hate that I hate that I have such a large real estate piece in that offense.
Yeah,
it just looks bad.
Same exact thought process. So I'm gonna give you my whole thought process on this. I flip flopped numerous times. The main reason why I'm starting DeAndre Hopkins over Quentin Johnston is because Trey Burks is ruled out. They're at home, so I know that Ryan Tannehill is going to be able to communicate. The offense is going to be in theory going to be a little bit better because they're at home. Yeah. They're not going against Cleveland, which is the best defense. Their
run defense is very good. Yeah,
right now.
Very stout.
And I still believe that DeAndre Hopkins has a ton of juice. Last year, I saw him on your team, by the way.
Yeah, it's not,
and he looked great last year.
It's not DeAndre Hopkins. It's
right.
Tannehill, man. He is just
right. So here's my thought process. DeAndre, you're at home. You're essentially the only receiver on the field. This is your last chance to solidify a role for me in my fantasy lineup. And so I'm going to give you a chance to get your floor. I think
you got to cut him?
Store for no, of course not. 12 targets, as we said. I'm hoping for the juice, right? Quentin would be more of a ceiling guy. Like I think there's a very good chance that Quentin can catch a 60-yard touchdown today, but and I don't think Hopkins has that in his repertoire at this point in his career. But I'm going for the volume and the floor there, and that's the reason why I'm going to stick with this lineup. I'm not touching it. And yeah, I have myself picked in this lineup. I think that one of the main factors is Philadelphia's defense against Washington. I think they're going to have a huge week. I think that's going to matter. That usually matters when your defense explodes. And then the second part of that is that I believe Patrick Mahomes against the Jets on the road is the best I can get. I think that's his hardest matchup of the year, and I got lucky that I'm facing you in that matchup.
2 words: Sunday night. Right? They're on Sunday night primetime football, and Pat Mahomes is elite, man. He's an elite player. He steps up to the challenge, man. He's just a big time player. I mean, hell, Taylor Swift's going to be there. Yeah. Don't you want to play big for Taylor Swift?
No, I'm afraid of the Drip King. You're going to be having him last Sunday night to see what you need. If it's a 30-point lead for me, for example, I'm scared.
Yeah, baby,
I'm real scared.
You know that
I've done it to other people numerous times.
And that's the worst. Is that the worst? You go in, you feel confident, but then the whole game. The worst thing about fantasy football is you got one guy going, and you're waiting to find out, if you're going to play good, and then it goes to the fourth quarter, and then you get like some trash time. Drive where they pick up just the right amount of points that they need. God damn, he's feeding Christian Kirk, man.
He did last week too. He had I think
I've got Zay Jones out, man.
13 targets last week.
Him and Zay Jones had a real good connection, initially. And he's just been out, man, and he was always the guy, and it sucks. Well, I know it looks like Zay Jones is in right now, even though I had him listed as out early in the week.
Yeah, I mean, the offense hasn't been that great for Jacksonville, and they can't really support 3 receivers. Ridley and Kirk are definitely their 1-2.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So just going back to the lineup and stuff. I mean, it's going to be a tight game right now. I'm not feeling too confident with how Evan Ingram's playing. It's got a measly 2.6 points or something like that right now.
Yeah, it's early though, and your team's not built for your tight end to carry you, so it's not like that matters. For me, Mark Andrews against Cleveland on the road, I don't expect him to do shit this week, so that's going to be a wash. I'm not relying on him. I'm relying on I have really good matchups at the running back position this week. My running backs are fucking loaded. I have 3 RB1s.
You do have good.
I have 3 RB1s right now. For me, if I lose this week, I think it's because Justin Fields has one of those games that he's been having all year, and I'm playing him for the same reason you're starting Javonte. I'm like, all right, here you go, buddy. You're playing a team that gave up 70 and you're on the other hand, the Bears are the worst defense in the NFL, in my opinion. So, we're both going on, bad offenses, but we're playing against bad teams, bad defenses. So here we go, right? I got Stafford though as my backup plan with Cooper Kupp coming back, so I think that he could be at least a good floor guy for me. Somebody if I can rely on for floor. As a matter of fact, I don't mind starting him this week against you as a good floor guy. But the thing is with my thought process is that
more explosive points.
Well, not that it's that Fields is at home, and I really value quarterbacks when they're at home. Stafford's on the road, and I just think that Justin's gonna be. I think this is gonna be his coming out week, and if it isn't, then I really missed on him big time this year, which is. It is what it is. I hit on I hit on Swift, obviously $1 for Mostert. Really saved
I like Mostert last year. We had a trade trying to go and get Mostert last year. I was very high on him, and we were criticized. Both of us were criticized very heavily in the diamond.
It is what it is.
But long story short, I think the kid has tons of potential in the showing this year. But you actually asked. I have a good question for you, Bill, because I heard you mention at home, right? What other tangible factors play into your decisions when starting or sitting, right? Like playing in a dome, for example, playing in a weather game or a wind game. I mean, do you take any of that into account when you're starting, your roster? Do you take any of that into account?
Give me 1 second because I'm handling something for fantasy football, and then I'm going to answer that question.
You're good. But I think the viewers, and I can tell you this from my experience, that stuff does factor in, right? If I see a heavy rain game like last week, I'm like, man, I really don't want my receivers going. I know it's the NFL, and you can't just get lined up with too tight or
All right, ask that question again. This fucking guy's blowing up my phone.
No, you're good, man. You're
sorry.
Good. No, so just what other tangible factors play in when you're starting? Like if they're playing in a dome versus playing in a field, home, away, weather games. What factors factor into you setting your roster or your lineup outside of just players and matchups?
95% of the time, it's irrelevant because you have your guys and you're going to start them regardless. And I think that one of the best things you could have going for your fantasy team is if you have a lineup that's not like yours, for example, where you have so many decisions to make because it's so hard. I think that a lot of times you just want to have your guys locked and you just wait for it. But I would say that like it's a huge thing, and I've definitely done this in the past when your team's when one of your receivers is going to be playing in a fucking rainstorm. I take those guys out. Yeah. It doesn't matter how good they are because the rainstorm games they're not favorable for wide receivers. Snow, they're fine. Snow, it helps. I've seen this ton. The data is 100% there. That when you're in the snow, it helps the offense because the offensive receiver, he knows which way he wants to go. The defense doesn't.
Slips.
So it fucks them. And I've heard Tom Brady talk about this plenty. And is in the offense, it's good for actually throwing the ball in the snow because like as I said, the defense can't mirror them. It's really difficult to do.
I'll combat that though, man, because I've owned Josh Allen. I was a firm believer in Josh Allen his first couple years, and he helped pull me to the playoffs in the first couple years. But God, there's some games in November, December that you get these snowy, windy games, and man, it's just you can tell there's like a huge drop off from his production. So and again, that might be the difference between Buffalo versus New England. I think it just depends on the region or the type of storm.
Yeah, Josh Allen in the snow. I've seen him have some big rushing games though. So I'm not taking any of those guys out. The rain is more what I'm concerned about. And as far as the domes are concerned, I like to get kickers that kick in a dome, like Young-Ho Koo. Like I like guys because then throughout the whole year when they're at home, you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
I think that's huge for kickers. I have McPherson this year, who he has when it gets cold, it's tough to kick in Cincinnati, but he's been solid for them. He's a good kicker
Big
for
leg.
them. So I don't really. You have let's get into
Harrison
this.
Bucker.
Yeah, let's get into this matchup now. Let's get into some matchups. We got SEC Savant versus the nicest guy in the league, Gary M. I am nice.
Yeah, man. I actually
Can you see? You can pull it up on your phone.
Yeah, no,
if
I
you
can
want.
see. I got pretty good vision.
Me
man.
too.
So I played against High last week. Again, his team, man, he has some potential there, but it's hard to get 110, man, out of his team. To be truthful,
He's having Trevor Lawrence with 13 points in the first half. That's pretty solid.
you think?
In the first half, absolutely. The problem is they have a big lead
17-0
now.
though. Yeah, I was gonna say 17-0. Game might change a little bit. They may come out in the first series throwing
13's fire in the first half. Just do the math. 13 times 2.
26.
But the problem is, like we just said, is the game script's going to change now.
Well, and you got to think a lot of those. Well, I would say
But
a lot
maybe
of those
not, though.
points.
In London, they like to run it up, baby. They like to get these
They want to
boys
show.
the ball.
It's a show.
Get
You're
the
right.
boys a lot.
If those people that believe in the NFL script, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to gain viewership over there. Essentially, I think they're going to get a franchise over there down the road. I don't know how they make it work, but they're trying to.
They have to it has to be an East Coast team, a.k.a. the Jaguars. And they have to change the schedule where half the year they're over here and half the year they're over there. So the home team, essentially, they play over there half the year. They don't have to move. And then one team just has to fly over every week. But it's a huge disadvantage or advantage, however you want to call it, for a team to sit overseas for half the year and play home games. I don't see how they can make it work. I wouldn't do it. I think that they should possibly try to make another league, a B league.
They had an NFL Europe once. You remember that?
Yeah.
And that was kind of a flop. But
I mean, they're probably going to do it. You're right. I just don't like it. It's too far, man.
Yeah,
I guess they make the argument that, when you fly from the East to the West Coast, it's the same shit. Think about it. The hard part is the West Coast teams going over to England, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they do it to the point where the Jaguars would have to be. Yeah, I don't know how they would do it, man. They would just they would have to try to avoid not playing West Coast teams as much as they can, though.
Yeah, and that's not. I mean, when you think of the parity of the NFL,
yeah,
it's not really fair. But I think that High's team actually, I like this matchup for High. Again, very low on Denver's offense, even though I've got a piece of it. I am nice is starting Russell Wilson. I mean, gosh, man, that guy. If you have to start him, you're in deep trouble. He has some decent receivers. And it looks like Brown got off to a good start on Thursday Night Football with about 15 points, which is pretty solid. Above his projection.
Gibbs had a bad game.
Yeah, Gibbs did have a bad game, and I know that you and High, you guys were really big on him. Yeah. Again, I think the talent's there for some reason. Either they're reserving him, or they just don't believe in that he knows the playbook right now. Whatever it is, he's not getting the kind of carries that he needs. Breece Hall, I mean, the guy complained about getting the carries. He got the carries. the Jets are just lost right now. That offense is again, it's not very good. You're going to stuff the box like any smart coordinator, in the league or whatever. You've got a quarterback that's just not very good. You're going to stuff the box. You'll play a little man. Try to force them to pass the ball. All right, so he's going to be facing loaded boxes, I think, until they trade for a quarterback or something magical happens. Right. DK Metcalf, very solid receiver, but I don't think Geno Smith is as good as he was last year. But solid receiver, and then Pickens. Gosh, man, the Pittsburgh offense is pretty crappy too. I don't like Kenny Pickett.
Me either.
I think he's trash.
He's terrible.
He looks pretty.
Offense.
He looks pretty. He looks like a prototypical quarterback.
Maybe like a Justin Herbert. Maybe.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Physically, he looks like he would be the guy, but he just, I don't know, man. Forces throws.
Sounds like you're picking I Am Nice.
I am.
Yeah, so am I. I had an I Am Nice in this one. Going on to Bishop Sycamore, a.k.a. Kicker, versus Lee. They both have players playing right now. We got Ridley with the touchdown. We got Bijan with a slow day again today. And Christian Kirk with 10 points already. A lot of catches, 6 catches for 71 yards. Christian Watson and Aaron Jones both had dreadful days. Christian got lucky and got a touchdown to give him at least 9 points. They're looking like it's a coin flip on the predictions right now. Who do you got in this matchup?
As much as I think kicker, I think both these teams are very good.
So do I.
They're very explosive, very good teams. But I'm gonna give it to Lee, man. His team has just been, scoring in the 130s, 140s. I mean, he has a couple guys that have great days. Again, Justin Herbert is elite. Justin Jefferson, elite. All he needs is like three guys to score in the 20s, and he's good. I don't like Madison. I think he's just fallen off. But again, I like TJ Hawkinson a lot. I've liked him since Detroit. In his Iowa days, he's a stud. And then the Dallas defense, man, I think that's going to be the difference in this. I think that the New England offense is just not very good. Mac Jones turns over the ball. I think that, I know losing Diggs is a big hindrance for that defense, but I do like that matchup, Dallas versus New England. I think that Dallas is going to come away with a special teams play or, some sort of a pick or a fumble recovery for, a touchdown. So I think that Lee edges kicker out in a tight one this one.
My let me see here. My picks aren't showing like they usually do. I usually see which guy I picked, but it's kind of good because on Thursday I made my picks, but now I can kind of not change my mind because I don't really remember who I was picking. But I'm pretty sure I picked Bishop Sycamore in this matchup, kicker, and I'm going to stick with that pick. I think Lee's team is due for a letdown week. I think that he made a really bad start with Christian Watson and Aaron Jones. Christian Watson specifically, but he got really lucky to get a little baby touchdown.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I think that he's got a stack of Justin Jefferson, Madison, and Hawkinson. I keep mentioning this all the time, right? And I've been nothing but wrong the whole way through, but I'll stick with it. Dude, it takes one game, a couple games where they get locked up a little bit or the script changes. And dude, those 3 guys on the same team is bad. And then you had Christian Watson and Aaron Jones on the same team. You're fighting against yourself there. That lowers your ceiling from whatever it is. It's mathematically lowered. There's no arguing it. It's like when you need guys on different teams because you hypothetically all max them out on each one. So
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Sycamore here. Bijan's got to get it going though, or else he's gonna be in a little bit of trouble. Ridley getting a touchdown's already nice for him. I think that Kyrene against on the road,
New Orleans.
He'll be fine, but no, they're playing against Indianapolis.
Oh, it's Indy.
Yeah, Indianapolis on the road. But they're, he's got a good team, dude. I think my team's better. But
of course you do.
No, I try to before before Swift really solidified himself and before Mostert became what he is right now, no, I was well aware that I was like a team that's going to be fighting for a playoff chance. I said that I was top 6, but I also said that, I thought Korea had the best team. This is before Nick Chubb got hurt. And no, it just developed, dude. I've hit on my players, man. I've really hit on them. Puka Nacua was a huge pickup.
God, man, I didn't think that he would be able to sustain that.
Nico Collins was a huge pickup.
I hate you for that, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I put it in a waiver. I put it in a bid the very next week after I dropped him.
We're the only 2 people that are still as high as we are on Nico, though. I don't think that the rest of the league has figured out how good CJ is. First of all,
he's playing awesome, man. He's lights out.
Him and Tank Dell are a very good duo, and I'm not just saying like in fantasy. Like, I mean, they're good in real life.
Well, don't forget that they get Michi back too, or he's back and he's still,
Robert Woods is a good vet. He's been playing well for them. They have a lot of good options there, and Nico's the number 1 receiver, dude. He's 6'4" and he runs a 4.5, 4.4. I mean, he's a good player, man, and like he has good hands. I think that he was hidden in because the offense was so bad and the quarterback play was so bad there.
Well, I can't even remember the guy's name right now. Who was starting last year? Not Trevor Simeon.
They were doing a bunch of different stuff. They were
the white guy. I can't think of his name.
They were starting. They were doing 2 quarterbacks at one time last year. Sometimes it was a nightmare out there.
Yeah, man, it was tough. They were pretty hurting. For offensive talent last year, they didn't have a lot, but I think they built through the draft and they got a couple guys back.
On to the 0-3 comeback kid versus the 3-0 Korea. Who do you have in this matchup?
Korea, 100%, man. I hate to say it, but Allen, man, your team is just not very good right now. I think he had a couple injuries that really decimated him. He also had the Jonathan Taylor holdout, which I benefited from, and that's a big hit. Anytime arguably your number 1 draft pick is out, it's tough to rebound from that. It happens every year though, man. You got an injury or a holdout or whatever, and unfortunately, that's why I kind of subscribe back to the. I'm going to give out a shout out to Shane Stiddick right now, man.
Bijan.
The stable. Yeah,
wow.
He's gone. Nope.
That was a great run, though.
He cut back. You got to get a stable of running backs that are guys that are reliable, because the injuries and the uncertainty happens, and there's only 32 of them, right? And you can even cut that number in half because some of them split time.
Right. I mean, you're preaching to the choir, man. Fuck Shane. I've been on that shit myself for a long time.
Well, I mean, I know that he's one in the league that always, I got horses, I got a stable.
Yeah.
That's like his bread and butter, man.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I agree. I always agreed, especially when we were in standard. But in this matchup, I picked comeback kid. I'm going to stick with that comeback kid. I think that you have a situation where $60 went out the window for Korea, and it's happened to still work out for him here a little bit just because he does have a pretty good team. The problem is he's going to chase some points with Devon Ockney this week.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him for doing it. I think that Devon's going to be in there 40% of the time, but you're going against a really tough Buffalo defense. Raheem Mostert's the one. And I think that he's going to be below 10 points this week.
That's crazy. They have projected 11 points, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's supposed, in theory, they're going to be 50-50, those 2 guys, which is fine. I'm cool with that as a Raheem Mostert guy too. But the problem is that it's the same reason I'm sitting Raheem this week. It's because I think Buffalo is really good against the run, man. I guess we'll find out at 1 p.m. But I got Devon having a bad game. I think Rashad White's going to have a bad game against New Orleans on the road. So you're looking at no production from your running back position, essentially. It's tough to win in fantasy football, and it's tough to win in the diamond in a half-point PPR format. That with that kind of running back production, you're relying on Mike Evans and Keenan Allen to keep it going at the rate that they are, which is going to be hard to do.
Yep.
I just think that it's going to be a down week. Doesn't mean Korea doesn't have a chance long term. I do think that he needs to figure out this running back situation a little bit more.
Oh, he's trying. He's trying to,
But it's tough when you lose Nick Chubb. I just think that Comeback Kid's team is better than what is on paper here.
Really?
I think that I think that he's definitely not going to make the playoffs this year. But he's still got a lot of talent with Burrow, Higgins, Zay Flowers, Devontae Smith. I like those guys. I like Josh Jacobs and Damian Pierce for volume. I like Kittle And, he's got Kelly deployed again this week, even though he hasn't done shit with Eckler out. He has another chance to at least do something without Eckler this week, so that helps him out. And he's got Jonathan Taylor, which is irrelevant. If we start to talk about long term, it's a different thing. But right now, I just think that Comeback's going to finally get his first victory. I think that there's a chance that a lot of these 3-0 teams, including myself, can take an L this week. You can't. It's hard to win every fucking week. It's hard to win every week.
Well, I think a perfect point that you're bringing to this is Comeback Kid. He was our runner-up last year.
Yeah.
0-3. Our champion is 1-2.
Yeah.
Right. And our reigning champion, I should say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give him any credit. I'm not going to say who he is because that guy has a big ego, anyways. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't want to boost his ego anymore.
He ain't watching this. Don't worry about that.
You don't think so? What a bad friend, man. What an asshole.
Buddy, he can't even set his lineups. You think that he's watching this?
That is, listen, and this is another thing. What makes our league so great? This guy was out, doing his thing, and he forgot to set up his lineup. And immediately in our group chat, our toxic group chat, we were riding him, and giving him shit, man. Yeah, no, absolutely, giving him a hard time, man.
I think it's really sloppy behavior, but it is what it is.
But you know what? It's habitual. He's done it before, right?
Right.
But then he wins the championship, and then you're like, God, man.
Josh Allen, man, that having a good quarterback can take you a long way, and that's exactly what you have a chance to do with Pat Mahomes. You finally get to feel what it feels like. Well, you had Josh Allen.
I had Josh Allen a couple years ago.
So you know what that feels like.
Yeah, but I have no running backs.
I'm super sad that I don't have Pat Mahomes or Jalen Hurts because I wanted one of those. I wanted Jalen Hurts this year, and Automatic Pickens kept bidding the computer. So I backed off, and then I was pivoting to Fields, which should have cost me around $18. But Shane and I got in a bidding war, and it is what it is. But I'm okay with that. It's just it just sucks because if I had Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, I'd be a really clear favorite right now.
I agree, but here's the other thing about that too, man. Like the 1 year, in my opinion, the 1 year that was my worst year, which was
that
last.
Drake London?
Yeah. The 1 year that was my best.
I think Lee sat him.
Probably.
Let's take a look. Keep
going.
I
didn't see him on there. The 1 year that I was at my worst was last year when I tried to gamble on the quarterback position. I've always been a firm believer on getting the top 5 guy, one of the top 5 quarterbacks, and it's always done very well for me. And last year I was like, I'll spend a little bit more on receivers and running backs and tight ends, and it really bit me in the ass, man. I went with Russ Wilson, and I couldn't have gone with a worse quarterback at that time.
I don't know if you've caught on to my strategy yet, but I always go with the elite quarterback. I've given out data on this FFA about our league specifically that I shouldn't, but I'll just reiterate it. I don't care, man. It's fine. Our league is quarterback friendly. We're only -1 on interceptions. I
thought we were -2. Are you sure about that?
We're -1. So that is a huge factor compared to other leagues. Another huge variable is that we only do 20 yards per point as opposed to 25. Yep. Those two variables alone inflate our quarterbacks' value way more than any other league. Mathematically, it makes our quarterbacks more valuable. It also makes quarterbacks that throw picks, even Justin Fields, for example, it doesn't matter as much anymore. Like it makes the running ability more valuable. With that being said, I always go for an elite quarterback. I had Fields as a top 5 quarterback this year. He hasn't done it yet, but my mistake, and believe me, I know it's a mistake, and I've been thinking about it a lot, is that regardless if I think somebody's a top 5 quarterback or not, for me personally, I still want to go with a team that I know has an elite offensive line with an explosive offense. And I went with Fields because, and it's the same reason I stay away from Lamar Jackson lately. It's because I just don't. I think besides their running ability, their offense, they don't stay on the field on third down, and that's so important in all fantasy football. You want teams that can move the chains on third down, because that just means more opportunities, longer sustaining drives, more red zone opportunities. If you're running into these teams like the Jets, for example, that they can't convert on 3rd and 6, they just can't get on. They can't stay on the field. Guess what? All your players are going to the bench, and they're going to have to sit until they get another opportunity. Then they go 3 and out again. Dude, you're not getting enough chances and enough snaps. So, for example, for Fields, for example, it's just, they can't block for the kid, and the offense, the philosophy is not great. The weapons, in theory, I thought were going to be better, but Claypool's a complete bum. So yeah, I mean, hopefully I figure that out. I'm going to take a piss. Kyle, talk about this matchup with the Criminals and automatic pickings and give us your pick.
No, that's awesome. And then when you come back, man, I'm going to trade you because I've been drinking some coffee and some water. But yeah, the Criminals and automatic pickings, man. I think that the Criminals are due for they've been very hot lately. 2-1. Took a bad loss last week, to be honest with you. It was a tough one, but the score was I think it was like 140 to 130. So in our league, having 140 points is pretty good. We always kid, man, but 110 seems to do the trick, usually for a win. If you can get into the 110 or higher, usually, unless you got a bad bid or a bad beat, you're pretty good there. But essentially you talk about the Tank Dell situation, rookie, talented as all hell. But again, I don't think that he has the type of day that he usually would. Jalen Waddle, man, I love that kid. Elite. He's one of those guys that, God, he's just a speedster ball player. Hit him on a short route in the slot and the slants. He's going to turn it upfield and get, some yak for sure. But again, I think that he's facing some tough matchups. He was very fortunate to have David Montgomery come in and have such a big game. And that is essentially where he may make his bread here. But I think overall he's going to have some guys that just have some letdown games, not projected, a little under. So I'm going to go with automatic pickings here, man. I like Jalen Hurts. I think that he's going to have a good game. I think Jamar Chase, those guys, Tyreek Hill is going to have another monster game. Again, you kind of look at the running back situation for automatic pickings, and it all goes downhill from there.
Yeah, I don't. I'll give you my thought real quick on this. I won't go in depth, and then you can go take a piss here. I'll say this: I picked automatic pickings on Thursday, but I also said if Eckler doesn't play, I'm changing it to Criminals. Eckler's not playing, I'm changing it to Criminals. And then throwing the variable that fucking Montgomery had a 33 burger. There's no way Criminals loses this matchup.
Really, man? I don't know. I just think Kirk Cousins is due for a down game.
I totally agree with that, but he'll still win. You get 33 from Mont, then he can afford to have 13 points here, to be honest.
Oh, man, I don't know. We'll see.
Aguilar's already on a shitty start here. Yeah, dude, you're starting him and Gus Edwards on the road against Cleveland.
Gus the bus, baby.
Against Cleveland on the road, though.
This guy needs to get in, try to trade one of his gems, man.
It's right there on the left.
Yeah, I'm open, man. I'm open. Automatic pickings.
So am I.
I got some running backs if you need them.
I've been ringing his bell a little bit.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, so getting a little playing against Kyle here, I have a good chance of, Ingram not doing anything so far. Speaking of that, I think he just caught a ball. No, the guy looks white. Yeah, different tight end. Ingram hasn't done anything against me so far, so that's nice. We'll check in on my fantasy app, make sure that I'm going to keep all my starters in that I have. Looks like I'm not going to be making any changes. Yeah, it looks like Justice Hill is going to be starting, but I'm not going to put him in on the road against Cleveland. But yeah, I'm going to keep my lineup as is in the diamond. Not going to touch anybody. I got DeAndre Hopkins over Quentin Johnston. I'm going to keep that locked in. And then I am going to keep James Cook and Swift in over Mostert. I'm going to let Mostert sit this week. Yeah. So, last matchup of the Diamond, and then we'll continue on with some other chatter. We got John's team at 1-2 versus Whoopsie at 1-2. They are a battle at the bottom at the moment, but it's still early in the season. Who do you have in this matchup?
Oh man, I think Whoopsie's team is actually due for a win, man. I'm gonna go with Whoopsie.
He had a big performance last week.
Yeah, man. I mean, and that's the thing that really sucks is that sometimes you just get bad beats, right? You get
No, he won last week. Big win.
Well, what
big,
I mean is
money,
that you have good weeks and bad weeks, and it just depends on the matchup, right? And that's where I believe some of the luck comes in. But I do think that he has a solid team, man. I love Brandon Ayuk. I've always loved him. He was the sweepstakes in the Jerome Ford win, which that kid's been, gosh, I think 17 and 18 points back to back, something like that.
It's in the best offensive lines in the NFL. I would have bid $100 on him if I had it.
Well, listen, here's the deal, and we go back to strategy, right? Sometimes you have to bait guys, man, and I had there's still a priority, right? But we had $100 fab, and I have waiver one, so I made everyone believe that I was going to bid $100 and get this guy, or that the cost would be $100. And Whoopsie did bid $100, and truthfully, it's paying off for him. It's well worth it. He's kind of taken over that role. Obviously, you don't know how Kareem Hunt is going to play in that down the road, but I like Whoopsie here, man. I think that I say this. I don't like Devontae Adams to have another performance like he had last week.
I mean, I'm not going to go into a ton of depth here. I'm picking Whoopsie in this matchup, and it's simply based on the fact that Lamar Jackson is on the road against Cleveland, and he's going to get fucking locked up bad.
Yeah.
I really believe in that defense in Cleveland, and specifically when they're at home in Cleveland. I think if you're going at Cleveland this year in fantasy football, take those guys out of your lineup because it's going to be a fucking nightmare out there, dude. Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in the NFL right now, in my opinion. So Denzel Ward is immaculate too.
You know what's crazy is I just saw, it was about 30 minutes ago that they're Deshaun Watson's not playing.
No, I thought they were going to play him.
I know they said they're going to start People Jones.
Okay.
So I don't know. Is he hurt or is he just
who are they taking out? You said Jones.
Dominic People Jones, right? Isn't that his name? Quarterback. I'm pretty sure that's who. It just, that could always factor in, man, depending on if, their offense starts sputtering or if they're sparking it up. It's one of those things where if Cleveland can, have a spark on offense and they get up big, Lamar Jackson may have to, go up tempo, pass the ball, make some things happen down the road where they're playing softer, like a softer zone, softer box. Lamar Jackson can run.
I don't know if these people are still in our chat watching, but we have some questions. So we'll answer a couple questions, and then I'm going to move on to my pick of the week. 5-1-1 record this year against ATS, against the spread. I'm hot. I'm very confident right now. I have a really, really hot pick to give you guys. So if you stay tuned, you will get the hot pick of the week. A 5-1-1 record currently. First question is 10-man PPR, keep 4. Just got offered Higgins and Metcalf for Lamb and Lockett. Would you do that trade?
Ooh, 10-man PPR. It was Higgins and who?
Just got offered Higgins and Metcalf for Lamb and Lockett.
I almost feel like that's kind of even.
Yeah, that question, I'm going to give you another philosophy that I give on Fantasy Football Aces, and I'm going to reiterate this again. If you only make trades in 2 situations, 1, if you are desperate, 2, if you are taking advantage of somebody who is desperate. That's the only 2 ways you make a trade. That it's way too early in the year to be making a trade like that. Half point PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs in a flex. Joe Mixon, Jerome Ford, Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, DeAndre Hopkins, Cam Akers, Khalil Herbert, and Elijah Moore. I guess he's asking us to make his starters. I'm going to answer first. And
Ford for sure.
I'm going to start DeAndre Hopkins as a receiver because I think there could be some volume there. I like him over George Pickens and Garrett Wilson. Unfortunately, your other options. So that's where I'm going with that. I'm not taking Joe Mixon out of my lineup, and I'm going to start Jerome Ford in my lineup for sure as well, just as he said. I think I would throw in Khalil Herbert as my flex, simply based on the fact that the Broncos gave up 70 points and 80 points to running backs last week, and you got to take at least a dart throw there. I know Herbert's been super disappointing, but I actually am deploying him in my one of my DraftKings lineups today because I think Denver just is that bad against the run, possibly. And then your third receiver, I mean your second receiver you're starting, it's between Garrett Wilson and George Pickens. I just can't. I just have a hard time sitting Garrett Wilson. He's just too talented. I know it sucks, but I'm not high on him at all. I just think that it's really difficult to take him out of your lineup, especially for George Pickens in a Pittsburgh offense that's dreadful. Unfortunately, you have three terrible offenses: the Jets, Steelers, and Titans as your receivers. It's not a good look for you right now, Red Blueberry Gaming.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Outside of the DeAndre Hopkins, man, like I said, if the run game can't go like it was last week, I mean that the pass game looked awful for Tennessee. I think Tennessee's probably the worst offense right now out of those, and I think that you at least have some upside with.
I think the Jets are worse than them.
Yeah, but the Jets are at home Sunday night, man. Maybe you get a. Yeah. They're gonna throw the ball. They're gonna. They're probably gonna get down big. You're gonna be on a plus script.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be my pivot on everything else. I agree with though. I mean, it would just be the Garrett Wilson, the Pickens, and then bench DeAndre Hopkins.
All in one show. Hello, start Russell or Lamar. Russell could have his coming out game.
Never off. I'm off of that.
So you're starting Lamar.
100%.
All right. So we're split on this one, and I'm going to be super adamant about this. All in one show, 1,000% start Russell Wilson this week. He's going against a Bears defense that's the worst in the NFL, specifically against the pass. They have no pass rush. It's their D line is absolutely dreadful. I think the Bears are better against the run actually than most people think. They're terrible against the pass. I think that Lamar Jackson on the road against Cleveland is a death sentence. I would never, this is literally the perfect day that I can never answer this question and say this, because I would never start Russell Wilson over Lamar Jackson in my life, except today where Lamar is on the road against Cleveland and Russell's playing against the Bears. I think it's a perfect storm. I'm starting Russell Wilson in one of my DraftKings lineups this week. So I actually have some stock in him. So ride or die with him this week, Russell Wilson. Also, Russell Wilson or Joe Burrow. I'm taking Joe Burrow in that.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm only going against Lamar because it's a death sentence against Cleveland right now, in my opinion. I could be wrong though. I mean, but I think Cleveland is just defense is that good. Start two, Tutu Atwell, Javonte Williams, Jared Jeudy, and Tank Dell. Start two.
I would start the first two. I don't think Tank Dell's going to repeat his success. And then I like Javonte. Obviously, I'm starting him tonight. And then Tutu Atwell. I mean, he's feeding right now, right? There's one guy, but he's not reliable, right? And it's what is it? Puka is his name. I always mess up his name.
Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell.
Yep. So I would go with Tutu, man. I mean, again, it's about volume. So those are the two that I would go with.
I would go with Tank Dell and Tutu Atwell. I would sit Jared Jeudy and Javonte Williams. I would sit, and I need more context here. I would need to know half point PPR, full point PPR, et cetera. Like I need to know that because I would possibly put Javonte Williams in depending on different variables. But I'm definitely gonna sit Jared Jeudy. It seems like Sutton is the guy there. I think that it's smart to get one of those guys in against the Bears for the same reason why I want to start Russell Wilson. But I actually like your other options. I like Tutu and Tank Dell. I think that Tank is definitely as much as I'm a Nico guy, because I am, and Nico's the number one receiver there. It seems like I know this for a fact. It doesn't seem like it. CJ wanted the organization to draft Tank Dell. He seems to have a fascination with him, and I think that he's going to. I think Tank Dell is going to be one of those guys for Shane. Unfortunately, that is a huge hit, man. I think he's possibly a star. So I don't know if I could take him out, and I love the way Tutu's playing too, man. And but I could flip a coin and put Javonte Williams in. Jared Jeudy is definitely the odd man out in that conversation.
I don't like Jeudy. I agree with that.
Amari Cooper and Ayuk. I'm gonna go with
Sun Devils,
Ayuk because Debo is a little banged up right now. I'm not sure if he's gonna play. I think Ayuk can be a huge benefactor of that. I think if Debo is gonna play though, you want to go with Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I've always been big on Brandon Ayuk and his abilities. That offense is rolling. San Francisco, the whole team is rolling. I like that, man. I would say Ayuk for sure.
All right, start 3 PPR. Cooper. Another Amari Cooper question. Garrett Wilson, Thielen, Dotson, and Palmer. Start 3 PPR.
Thielen, Dotson, and Palmer. I take Palmer. I'm playing Palmer. I take Dotson out. So Palmer, Cooper, and then I'm missing one? Wilson, right?
Garrett Wilson, Thielen, Dotson, Palmer, Cooper.
Thielen had a really good game, man, with Carolina last week. They were featuring him. He was getting a lot of love, especially, you said full point or half point PPR?
PPR. Full.
Okay. So, man, that one's tough. I would probably go Thielen, man. I would go Thielen.
So I'm going to go Cooper, Garrett Wilson, and Palmer. I'm taking Dotson and Thielen out. I love Thielen. Don't get me wrong, but I love Thielen if they have the redhead.
Andy Dalton, is he playing?
Andy Dalton, no.
They're
bringing Bryce Young back. I don't like anybody with Bryce Young, so I'm not starting him with Bryce Young. But I love Thielen. If he has the red rocket out there throwing to him, I think that's a huge upgrade for their offense and wide receivers and their whole fantasy group. If in Miles Sanders, if they have Andy Dalton, I think with Bryce Young, it's a shit show. Which is a good thing for my Bears because we get their pick this year. I want them to lose every single game.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that, man. I definitely agree with that.
Moving on to the pick of the week, guys. On your screen now, we are going to get to the pick of the week. I am 5-1, 1-1 record. I'm picking on Thursday night's game every single week, and I'm giving you one special sharp pick every Sunday. 5-1-1 record so far. And this week's pick of the week is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I got them at -8.5. I don't know what they're showing on your screen here. It looks like it came back down to 8.5. It went up to 9. So you want to get it at 8.5. I'll give you some thought process on this. Sometimes there's picks that I make that are just based upon being sharp. Going against the public, things of that nature. And then there's some picks like I did last week with KC and like I did with the Lions on this Thursday against Green Bay, where it's simply based on football logic. And this week it is based on football logic. I don't care what the public's doing. Philadelphia, I'm going to give you some stats here that really, in my opinion, make a difference in the reason why I'm making this pick. Sam Howell, taking the most sacks in the NFL this year. He's on pace to beat Derek Carr's record. Guess who they're playing this week?
Ooh, that's a dreadful D-line, man.
Yeah, they're playing the best defensive line possibly ever assembled.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
With the Bulldogs. You got Fletcher Cox. You got Hassan Reddick. You got Graham still. You just got a plethora of guys that they rotate in. He's holding on to the ball too long, which is a recipe of disaster. Philadelphia's secondary has gotten healthy. And let me even give you something else for you to ponder. Philadelphia Eagles undefeated last year going into a primetime game at home at Lincoln Financial in Philadelphia against the Washington Commanders. They took a loss. Do you think they don't remember that? I can guarantee you they remember that. I guarantee you it's bulletin board material as well. They were undefeated last year and Washington took them all and gave them their first loss at home at Lincoln Financial. Philadelphia is going to really want to make a statement today. I think that Sam Howell's going to be turning the ball over. You're going to get a lot of short field. There's an opportunity and a chance that the Commanders backdoor in this game. I think it's possible. You know, that
Monday night game too.
Philadelphia is a 14-point favorite. 14-point lead in the end of the game here, and the Commanders get a backdoor touchdown to cover the 8.5. That's possibly out there, but you're going to accept that when you make a pick like this. I just think it's going to be an absolute rout. I'm talking, 30-something to like 11, 30 something to 14, somewhere around that range. I can see also Commanders not even scoring a touchdown or a point in this game as well. That's my pick of the week, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, moving on to my DraftKings lineup, I'm going to give you full monitor here. It's going to take a second for it to give you a clearer picture. But I got two lineups, $1,000 lineup here. In one of my lineups on the left, I am going to be going with Justin Herbert as my quarterback against Las Vegas. I think that he's in store for a big game. I'm throwing him in with Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnston. I'm hoping with that stack there, I got them both for cheap in Palmer and Quentin because they're essentially being deployed for the first time this year. So you get them really cheap. I think that I'm hoping that they don't give the ball to Keenan Allen as much today, and these two guys explode. And that's the way this DraftKings lineup's going to win. I'm pairing him up with Puka Nacua, who I think is going to get a lot of volume against the Colts. They play a lot of zone. I think that he's in store for another 10 to 15 catch performance today, and I'm hoping he gets his first touchdown of the year. At running backs, I'm going to put Raheem Mostert with James Cook. I think that that's the highest point total on the board this week. It's a 51 point total. So you're going to have an opportunity for both running backs to have chances to score touchdowns and score points. I think that compared to all the other matchups in fantasy, they're a reasonable price, and I thought that they were a good option. George Kittle, I'm hoping Debo's out, so George Kittle can possibly have a bigger game there. And then I have in the flex DeAndre Swift, and with the Eagles as my defense. I think that obviously this is a coincidence that it's all my fantasy running backs in the diamond, but they have good matchups this week, man.
I find it very interesting that you have Mostert in your lineup here, but you don't have him in your lineup, which is just in versus me.
Yeah. So in salary in DraftKings, you going off a salary, so that plays a factor. Yeah. But Raheem Mostert, it's also I like him this week. I just like the other three guys better.
Yeah,
I can't play Pollard in this lineup because he costs more. He's more. So so that's the reasoning. But I like all my running backs this week. I have good matchups. And then on the right-hand side, I went with Russell Wilson against the Bears. I think that he has an opportunity to have a big game. I paired him up with Courtland Sutton, and I'm hoping for that combo to go off today. And then I have Puka Nacua, who's a volume guy, and I have him in both lineups. I like the PPR volume there. And I put Keenan Allen in this lineup. So I love the Chargers against Vegas this week as far as putting up points is concerned. And there's your Ingram with back-to-back catches.
Oh, he's targeting him now. It's third consecutive target.
Yeah. So, I went with Keenan Allen in this lineup. So I'm hoping, hey, if it backfires on the left-hand side and we just target Keenan Allen 20 times again this week, at least I have him in this lineup to benefit from that. I put Khalil Herbert in this lineup against the Broncos. They had the worst rushing defense in the NFL right now. So I'm hoping Khalil Herbert can have an explosive game where he finally bounces back and gets on track to something that I thought he could be before the season. I am a little worried about Roschon Johnson taking over that backfield today. I think it's a very strong possibility that the Bears at 0-3 say, hey, we're going to pivot. We're going to move on to Roschon. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what this offense can do with Roschon. I think that is a possibility. But Khalil Herbert's only $4,700 on DraftKings, so I'm going to take a shot with him. And I was able to put together and put Keenan Allen on this roster by going lighter at running back there. I have DeAndre Swift in both lineups and James Cook in both lineups. I just think they're good matchups, and I think they're in situations where they can thrive. I have the Eagles in both lineups. I think them at home against Washington. I'm obviously all in on Eagles defense today. I have them in diamond. I have them both in my DraftKings. I have the Eagles as my pick of the week. So I'm all in on the Eagles today. I think that they're going to blow the Washington Commanders out. And then I have Pat F as my tight end. I went with him for cheap so I can build the rest of my team. They do target Pat F quite a bit. I'm hoping it's one of those games I get 7 or 8 targets and he gets a touchdown. And that's what you hope for in DraftKings. So that's what I'm doing there. Let's take a look at, some news here, see if there's any news. One of your listeners, I answered all. Let's see here. Wow. So I did get a question here that I missed. Unfortunately, I didn't. I thought it was just a Gold Knowles comment, which was cool. I mean, of course, I acknowledge that I saw that originally, but I didn't realize that he asked a question too.
Oh, okay. Let's go.
He asked, "Is Puka the real deal?" Absolutely, he's the real deal. Just turn on the tape. There's a thing about players when they're smart football players. That's something that heart and intellect is hard to measure at the combine. They can do as best as they can is when they meet a guy and start to understand his character. But there's something to be said when you just fully understand how to get open against zone. You're cutting off your routes. You're running a drag across the field. Instead of running the drag, you stop because you see the open spot in the zone. There's some guys that don't get it, man. They'll just keep running the drag. They don't understand that the defense. They don't understand how to get open. I think Puka Nacua, outside of Sean drawing up plays and rubs to get him open against man, I think he will struggle against man-to-man a little bit. And I think that, corners are going to take exception about all the publicity he's getting, and they're going to want to, make a statement and shut him down. Similarly, the way that Cincinnati Bengals did, they played a lot of man on Puka, and I think Puka will still be able to get open against man because he understands leverage and he's a big guy, and Stafford's a perfect quarterback to fit balls in where they need to be fit. I think, but overall, it's a huge benefactor when you are able to essentially run option routes 24/7. That's kind of what Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes do. They don't really run specific routes that much. It's like they're literally running backyard football choice routes all the time. And you can only do that with really smart football players because the quarterback and the receiver are on the same page. And they're a dime a dozen. There's not a whole lot of them. I would say Puka is definitely one of them. Cooper Kupp is going to come into the lineup. And I think Stafford's going to have two of those guys now. And I think I think you're never going to be able to play zone on them ever again because Stafford's just going to tear you apart with those two guys. What are your thoughts?
Man, I agree. Smart football players are fantastic to have in your lineup, but it doesn't always equate to good play, in my opinion. I think when Cooper Kupp comes back, he's going to be the guy. I think that his production is going to come down substantially. I just don't, again, he's a rookie. He's been playing sensational.
Jesus,
let's go, Evan.
They're just eating with
Let's
Ingram
go,
now.
baby.
That's good for you, man.
Yeah. But, I think his play's been sensational. I think he's a fantastic football player, but I agree. He's going to struggle in man coverage.
He's up to 8 points now.
When teams start to, kind of play more man against them. And then, the only opposite side of that, opposite end is when you get Cooper Kupp back, everyone's going to focus on who?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Kupp. So if you can kind of eat in those underneath zones, and that he runs a lot of check down routes, right? Like a lot of stuff underneath. He's not going deep. He's a high volume guy. So you gotta say, well, his volume's probably gonna cease to Coop, but then on the flip side, he may be a little bit more open. So I don't know, man. It's kind of a toss up, but me personally, I think that he's gonna degrade once Kupp is back.
Yeah, I have a theory that Puka is close to the same talent level as Cooper Kupp. I think that a lot of it is intellect. I think a lot of it is the system with Sean, and I think a lot of it is Stafford. So in other words, I love Puka's size. I think Cooper's a little faster than him, but they're very similar football players. I think that Stafford and Sean realize what they have with those two guys. I think they're going to scheme up for them quite a bit together. I think that Stafford's obviously Cooper is going to turn into the number one target, but that to answer your question, that doesn't make Puka not for real. He is for real. I think it's just it's inevitably target share is going to go down when Cooper's there. But I still think you can get 10 targets a game from him. But that's yet to be seen. We'll find out next week in week 5. This week, I think that Puka is going to have an absolutely enormous day. He's going against a perfect defense to have a big day with Indianapolis. I just think that they've been bad against receivers. They play a lot of zone. I just think that they don't really have the personnel to stop Puka. He is a zone killer, an underneath guy, but he's shown in college that he can go up top, and he has 6'2". He's 6'2", over 200 pounds. So he's a big guy. He understands leverage, as I said, and that's important in the NFL. Evan Ingram, man, he's up to 6 catches for 50 yards. That's solid for 8 points is good for you, man. I don't expect Evan. I think he's a super touchdown dependent guy.
He hasn't got a touchdown yet.
Right, but if he puts up 8 points every week, that's great.
He's I think he's tops in the league in receiving yards for tight ends. One of the top. I can tell you that. He had 180 yards.
There's just so many mouths to feed there. I didn't want Evan Ingram, but I mean, who do you want at tight end? There's not a lot of options.
There's 3 guys.
Yeah, so Evan, he looks good, man. He's doing better than I was hoping today. I was really happy with that 2 points he had for a while there.
In here too, watch.
80 yard.
Second to 7.
8 points is solid, man.
Whip route. Nope.
Is that him again?
No, he was in the interior trying to run a whip.
You're back to projected right now. We're both at 118 now with the performance that Evan's putting on now, but a touchdown would be huge for you, obviously. In our matchup, I'm just hoping that Derrick Henry and Zach Moss get locked up today, and if that happens, I think you're going to take an L. Yeah. But I think if those guys have a good game, you're going to beat me. That's the way I view it.
Derrick Henry had 2 points last week. Yeah, I don't think that happens again.
No, I don't either. I
Could be wrong.
I think Cincinnati's really good against the run. I think they're just a pretty good underrated defense in general. But I agree with you at home. I think he bounces back. I still think he's got plenty of juice. I don't think that there's – you said that he looked a little slower lately. Oh, here we go. Oh. You said he looked a little slower this year. I've found to see that he's like that a little bit in the beginning of every year. And I think it's more about the offensive line than him.
He's patient. The way he runs zone is very, very patient. Very, very patient back, man. He just kind of – and then he sticks the hole when he gets it. But, yeah, I don't know, man. He just looked a little step slow. I know that you told me earlier in the week that he was like a, what did you say, 55% snap count?
They're giving Spears the ball like crazy.
Which is, it's a little concerning, man.
I don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. And I would have never thought in my right mind that I would buy Derrick Henry and consider week 3 or week 4 now that I consider benching him, man. I just don't get it. But hey, man, I want to, obviously thank you for inviting me on, but man, I do respect and trust a lot of what you put into this, man. I know that you're working real hard and you like you said, man, you got some sharp picks. So let's do this shit live on the air, man. I want 200 on your pick. We gonna lock it in? Yeah, let's do it, baby. I got my wife's birthday next week, man. Get a nice little free dinner.
200 hamburgers.
Yeah, baby. 200 hamburgers. 200 hamburgers.
So you want to ride with me?
I would ride with you, man.
All right, cool.
I trust you, man. I think what you got is it's a solid pick.
It's this game it's never guaranteed. But I am hot. I am confident. I do like this pick a lot. So hopefully we can go to 6-1. We get Kyle T 200 hamburgers.
Yeah, man, dinner, right? I gotta take my wife out to dinner next week. McDonald's, whatever we want. I know the dollar menu is not what it used to be, but we can get a $2 cheeseburger.
All right, well, that'll do it then for this episode. Sunday, Kyle and I are head up. We got a big matchup. It's brewing right now. Ingram, 8 points. We'll see who gets the victory. Tonight, Pat Mahomes will be the deciding factor on the road against the Jets.
Yeah, man. He's going to get it. I'm telling you.
But until Tuesday, peace out.
Have a good one.